Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to go through how to avoid and survive a false allegation. Now, this is going to be from a website you'll see on the screen, and I can share the link below. You can go through this yourself. I'm going to split this up into the sections that it has split up here. But I know that I like to listen to things, and it's easier for me to just digest things as I listen and I think about things. Sometimes it's harder for me to read and think. I gotta. Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop it up here on the screen. All right, now you can see what I'm seeing. Minimize this. So this is off of the site saveservices.org. And this was a link that I came across in another fathers group from an individual that may join us and do some of these himself. We'll see. So as you see on the screen here, tips, how to avoid and survive a false allegation. And it's broken up into 4 things. No, 5. Jeez, not a good start. Before the accusation, if a restraining order is served on you, defending the allegation, immigration, and working for change. So today, we are going to deal with before the accusation. So I'm going to go through these 3 pages, and I'll just offer up whatever I have as I read it. I skimmed through the first one. I haven't read the other 2, so yeah, it'll just be natural me reading out loud and going through it. Maybe you guys will get something from it. Hopefully you will. And if anything, you'll just feel like, yep, I know how that is. Right there with you, not alone, etc. so forth. Why should persons be concerned about false allegations of domestic violence? Approximately 2 million Americans experience intimate partner violence each year. These persons need counseling services, legal assistance, and shelter resources and protection by the criminal justice system. I just remembered my last video was quieter than I had anticipated, so sorry if you just now have to adjust your volume. Unfortunately, each year 2 to 3 million restraining orders are issued in the United States, of which as many as 80% are unnecessary or false. As Elaine Epstein, former president of the Massachusetts Bar Association, revealed, everyone knows that restraining orders and orders to vacate are granted to virtually all who apply. In many cases, allegations of abuse are now used for tactical advantage. False accusers not only divert resources away from the true victims of domestic violence, they render harm to the targets of their legal abuse. False allegations stain a person's reputation, deplete that person's asset, and can ruin a person's career. They may deprive a child of parental love and attention, which every child needs. Okay, so it looks like this is an example. Excuse me, just one moment. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce this last name, so I'm just going to say first name. Kristen registered a disposable cell phone under her ex-husband's name and sent herself a dozen threatening messages that portrayed her ex as an unrelenting batterer. During her sentencing to serve 7 to 14 years, during his, it just says their last name, so I assumed. During his sentencing to serve 7 to 14 years in prison, Judge McHugh commented, as a result of her actions, other victims' cases, their safety, their security has been damaged. The web for this is much greater than what has just happened to Mr. All right, I gotta try to say his name. Ruggiero? I don't know. Unbelievable. I mean, that's an extreme case. Most of us just have the alienation, but this is an extreme case where, this guy was going to be sentenced 7 to 14 years in prison over false allegations. If you're here, you know what that's like. You've experienced it very likely, and you have your own crazy story. That's the interesting thing about our community, is that we all have our own story, and it's always different, but always the same. So, all right, we'll go on to the next page. What are the warning signs of an impending false allegation? A false allegation can be a life-altering experience, but falsely accused persons often don't see it coming. These are some of the warning signs to look for. Here we go. Your partner has got a restraining order before and knows how to work the system. Okay, here I'm gonna start interjecting. So, all right. This is my advice. This isn't Fathers Anonymous. This is my advice. If your partner has done this ever, like that's it. One and done. If it's an unfounded restraining order, that person has weaponized the system against you, and they can never be trusted. That's my take. I would never be with that person again. If your significant other is using your child as leverage, saying, "Oh, but if we get back together, blah blah blah," like I know somebody in the other organization that I was in, and that's exactly what he did, and the same thing happened, and it's happened to him more than once. Don't do it. Do not fall into that trap. You cannot trust that person, and just like with actual abuse, it builds on itself. So you can expect, they've already shown you how far they will go. The question is, how much further will they go? And that you will not have an answer for. Don't play with it. Move on. It will be hard, but it will be a wise decision for you and your child. So those are my thoughts on that. Next point. You and your partner are thinking about separating, and you are worried about an impending child custody dispute. Yeah, I think that's always looming. I wouldn't say immediately assume that it's impending. I would disagree, but I would say be careful in what you do. That would be wise to keep your communication concise and clear. Do not rise to any insults or accusations. I don't mean to stereotype women, but in my experience, I have found that most of the time, when men kind of shut off and are more stoic, that makes a woman more insecure, and she will push harder for validation, because any response is a good response. And they live with you likely, and they know what will work, and they know what will work to get a rise out of you. So just expect that. Expect that that's going to happen, and be above it, because you got to look out for yourself and your child. Next point. Your partner is moody, unpredictable, attention-seeking, demanding, manipulative, or fails to assume responsibility for family problems. I could see some of those being a warning sign that you could be subject to a false allegation, but I'm not sure that I would say impending. As these go on, if I continue to do them, you will notice that I am a stickler for words, because I believe each word has a meaning and intention. So I think impending kind of changes the tone of this. Next point. Your partner has been diagnosed with depression, borderline personality disorder, or other psychological problem. Okay. I would say maybe not so much depression. I think with an individual with depression, you will have just as much chance as not. I don't think that that is accurate. However, I believe that in almost every situation that I have encountered, both personally and with people in our volunteer work here, and I have easily talked to over 1,000 dads over the course of a few years. All of their behavior is characterized by what appears to be borderline personality disorder. But obviously, I am not a licensed psychologist. I do know a bit about psychology, so I can't diagnose anyone. So that is something you will need to do on your own. And also, if they don't have a diagnosis, good luck. But if they do, I would strongly caution against entering a relationship with someone that has BPD. Not to say don't, not to say discriminate. I'm saying I would caution. Know what you're getting into. Research. Talk to them. See if they're genuine about it. But I would say that someone with BPD, if the relationship goes sideways, yeah, I would say that your chances of an impending false allegation are very highly likely, because these people, for lack of a better word, I don't know. I have to be careful. I think for people, for just average listeners to understand, whatever you might assume is associated with someone being manic, it's like it's almost manic, and it's like a light switch, and it's and I know that like narcissism is like a cliche hip word to use. I don't use it lightly, but these people tend to be, they have some sort of, it's part of the dark triad. They tend to have this like narcissistic, sociopathic mindset. And so all points lead back to them at all costs. I think that's the best way to say it, right? Like narcissism is all about me, and sociopathy is, like lack of empathy for others or sympathy. They can't relate. They're really detached from feelings, experience, etc., unless it's them. So that's why I say like all paths point back to me, and if it's not me, then meh. Anyway, so that's a big thing, BPD. Next one. Your partner has made a joke about getting a restraining order. I think that, listen, divorce is very high in the United States. And so, I mean, it's basically you've got a 50-50, okay? And so if you're here, then you've probably already been through this. But if you're a dad and you have concerns, you're still in the relationship, then this is for you. You need to set boundaries. I mean, everybody needs to set boundaries, but you need to set boundaries and know that most fathers don't get a good shake. And because of that, it should be taken very seriously. I haven't seen my children in 3 years, going on 4. Okay? It's very serious. And it all started from an order for protection against me and a restraining order against my fiance, who's now my wife. That's how it all started. It's not funny. It's not funny because you have too much to lose. So mine never made that joke, but it's not a funny joke because it's at your expense. Ultimately it's at your kids' expense, and whatever's going on in their mind, their heart, they don't have what it takes to see that, hey, this could be also hurting my child too. And that's kind of scary, and that's sad. My phone's blowing up here. Sorry about this. Okay. Next point. You just discovered your partner is having an affair. Do not confront your partner about it. I would say that's wise. There's a lot to talk about in that point. and honestly, they said it the most concise way possible. Don't confront your partner about it. You need to decide what you need to do in your life. However, I know some people that have had affairs and things have worked out, and that's fine. But if you have kids, you need to know what you can have in your life and what you can't, and where you need to draw the line. And if you just can't fathom being in that relationship anymore, you need to start preparing quietly. And like I said in the other points, you need to make sure your communication is clear, and you don't rise to any pokes or prods. Be mature. Let's see. Next one. Your partner has been arrested for domestic violence and is now considering ways to retaliate. Hey, listen, again, it's over. Run. At that point, listen, if your partner has been arrested for domestic violence, that's when you need to file an emergency order, an emergency custody order. That way it's established, like, here's the norm moving forward. And I don't say that lightly, because often I hear stories from men, from fathers that say, yeah, she filed this restraining order on me, and I had X days where I couldn't see my kids, and during that time she filed an emergency order too, or in some states you can file them together, and boom, it's over, and then the ball's set in motion. I don't say to use that tactic lightly, but if your partner has been arrested for domestic violence and it was actual domestic violence, file for an emergency custody order. Now, I'm not an attorney and I can't give you legal advice, but if I was you, that's what I would do. So, next point, your partner has told you they are going to request a restraining order. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty obvious, and leave them alone. Let it run its course. Your partner has friends or family members who have done so. Yeah, that's something to really look out for. When they have friends like that, that's the other thing too. I mean, if you're just now dating or going to get back into dating and you know that about them, it's probably not a good idea. It's probably not. I would not recommend that, because, they always have these ideas and options, and when you're in a relationship, again, I'll say it 100 times, this is just my opinion. When you're in a relationship and that person has all these like venues of ways to get out, and especially ways that are malicious in this way, why even be with that person if that's a strong focus, or if that's what their friends do over and over? It's like, well, they're hanging around that person. They're choosing to be friends with someone like that. So, is what it is. All right, next, final page. And this one's a little longer. What should I do if I think my partner is going to make a false accusation? A restraining order is the most commonly used legal tactic to make a false allegation of domestic violence. If you have reason to believe your partner is about to make a false accusation, it is critical that you act quickly to protect your children, your reputation, your assets, and even your career. Get legal advice from a qualified attorney. I would say that for most people, yes, that's probably wise. Listen, you can get an hour most of the time free, like a free consultation. If you cannot find a free consultation, pay for one. Pay for an hour consultation. Most attorneys will charge you upwards of about $2,000 as a retainer. and they'll, if you don't know, we can get into that some other time about what a retainer is and how all that works. But it is good advice to get legal advice from an attorney. We do have people here in our organization that have volunteered for a while in other organizations. We've all seen a lot, so you can ask us questions. We'll steer you the right way. We may even know specifically what's going on in your county, but we aren't attorneys, so we can only give you anecdotal information. If you are just strong-willed enough where you believe that you can hold it together in court, you might be able to get away going pro se, representing yourself. And man, more power to you if you can, but I don't believe most people can. But if that's something you are interested in, you would like to know more about, send us a message. Most of us know contacts or know people or are people that have represented ourselves pro se, and we can give you some pointers. Assemble your valuable papers, birth certificate, car title, legal documents, etc., so they can't be stolen by your partner. Place them in a newly opened safe deposit box or other safe location. That's good advice. I know that my ex, I think there was some point where she kind of was like hanging on to birth certificates or social security card or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but there was this weird, I don't know, things got weird. So that's smart advice. I would say at least, at minimum, photocopy. Open a checking account just in your name so your partner can't take your money. Great advice. Remember that, which, by the way, I kept a joint account through the divorce, and that blew up in my face. And then when I had to close the account because she kept taking money, it got used against me. Like I was trying to, because it was still considered marital assets, even though we were separated, living separately. Good advice. But just know it still could be construed as marital asset. So, just saying. Tell a family member or trusted friend in case you need to find a place to stay on short notice. Yeah, someone you trust, for sure. But make sure you have options too. That's the other thing. If it's someone that your spouse knows and knows well and thinks that you might go to, they might come find you there and start some drama. So if you can find somebody that maybe they don't know where they live, that might be better for you. It'll give you a better alibi too, maybe, depending on the situation. I'm just saying, if you have more than one option, consider them. Change the passwords on your computer, cell phone, and personal bank accounts. Yeah, if you're still together, then obviously you got to be careful with that, because then they'll expect something. But if you change the password on bank accounts, again, going back to that marital asset thing, that can be used against you in court, so be careful with that. If you have any firearms or other weapons, move them to a secure location away from your home. Do not engage in firearms training or target practice until the situation is resolved. Yeah, that one's pretty upsetting because, I mean, it's your constitutional right. However, boy, that honestly can get you dead pretty quick. All that has to happen is for her to say he's crazy, he did this, blah, 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 and he's got a gun on him, and none of it could be true. And next thing you know, they're coming to your house with the SWAT team, or your mom's house where you're staying with a SWAT team, and you're there. You are trying to comply, and you make a wrong move, and you're dead. I'm not trying to be alarmist or apocalyptic here, but I'm just saying, like, you really need to be safe about that. So do what you will there. Avoid any actions that could later be misconstrued in a court of law. Okay? Some of these points are going to be what I already said. Do not engage in put downs or insults, especially in writing or by voicemail or an answering machine. Listen, at this point, you're on stage. If you're here, you're on stage for all to see. If you post something in a private Facebook group, it can get found. Okay? Nothing is safe. My advice, be smart. Know that they're looking for stuff. Don't give it to them. All right? And especially in writing. So that's great advice. Do not talk or joke about violence or suicide. Yeah, I mean, unless it's someone that you can really, really trust and say, I'm just struggling with this stuff, blah, 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 but look, it would be better that you reach out to anyone anonymously. Reach out to anyone, which is part of our name, Fathers Anonymous. Hey, you can reach us if we don't know you, okay? Don't tell us that you're going to do something. Or that you plan to, because if you do, obviously we'll have to do something. But if you're just struggling with stuff like, man, I'm just having a hard time getting up, I'll share something with you really quick. There were times going through my divorce where I was on my motorcycle and I would just get so upset and I would just close my eyes and pull the throttle back. Now, was I committing suicide? No. Was I trying to? Well, not really, but kind of, but not really. It was just being reckless. And so I get it. Just say, just be careful about who you talk to about that stuff. Yeah. All right. Do not engage in kinky sex or joke about rape. Yeah. What a bizarre time we live in, because it's like, that's like what people talk about normally. Like, that's like a thing, I guess. But as a guy, you got to protect yourself. You got to be safe. That's all I can say about that. Do not slap your partner, even if he or she asks you to. Good advice. Do not play roughhouse with your children. Now, you got to be safe with that. I had something that was used against me in court, and it was, one of the things was an accident, and then just general roughhousing. I'm a guy, and I had 2 boys, and it's like, that's just what you do. It's not anything mean. It's, you're having fun together. Your kid is testing his limits and your limits, and that's all part of growing up, learning where the boundaries are. So I can't say I fully agree with that in practice, but it is good advice. That's frustrating. Take that however you will. Do not smash your fist into the wall. Do not throw the TV remote control. Yes. Don't just contain it. Go outside, take a walk. If you need to go drive somewhere else where you won't be seen and go punch a tree, go punch a tree. Don't be seen. Okay. There are situations where it just feels like you're just going to boil over. Look, just distance yourself, take a walk, take a hike, deep breaths. Don't do that stuff, though. Don't smash your fist into a wall or anything that can be perceived as violent, because you better believe that will come up in court. So, do not admit to doing something wrong or apologize for prior actions, either verbally or in writing. Yep, even if you did, because right now, this is like, it's just not the time, because whatever whatever you have to say is going to be used maliciously against you. And so you might apologize for doing something that was small. And I mean, boy, my ex was great at manipulating. Like, she would turn truths into lies, and those are the most dangerous ones. And so, they'll manipulate it to be way worse than whatever it was. So just don't. Just be stoic and reserved. If your partner is engaged in abusive behavior, promptly obtain a restraining order in advance of your partner taking such action. Once you get the restraining order, change all locks to keep your partner out. That's good and bad advice. It really depends on the state, depends on the county. Because, if it's your home and their home, after the restraining order is up, the restraining order is gone, and it's their home too. So you need, so I don't know about the change all locks. I don't know. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just saying might not be practical. If you need to see your ex-partner, for example, to exchange your children, do so in a public location, preferably a place with video monitoring. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if anything, get one of those things in front of your car too. Put it in your front thing and do the exchange, have the car facing you, whatever you got to do. I think that when you're doing this all the time, here we go, we're exchanging the kids, like holding your phone up in front, don't do that. That just stokes the fire. So just, if you can have it and you're in a state where that allows, which is most all states, do that. But also in a public location. If you need to drop something off at your ex-partner's residence, go with a witness. Absolutely agree. Be sure to document any conversation or incident that could later become a focus of attention in a courtroom. Yeah, sure. For many, dealings with a false allegation of domestic violence and its after effects may be the most difficult challenge that they ever face in their lives. To get through the experience, you will need to obtain good legal advice and follow a series of common sense measures to fend off the accusation. Okay, well, we got through it. Yeah, so if you suspect that this is coming, protect yourself, be smart, all of that jazz. If you're already there and you want some more information, either you can go to the site as I've listed and shown, or you can just shoot us a message. I'll have my email in this link below in the description or whatever. And you can message one of our pages. We'll help you out there. Until next time, be well and take care of yourselves. Later, guys.